Hello, this is Susan with Irreversibly Moi, and today I am absolutely thrilled to introduce to you Carla Sonheim, artist, author, and mistress of silliness. She's going to talk to us today about what she has going on, about her fabulous art, and I'm sure we'll even dig and get a few of her favorites as well. So Carla, welcome. Welcome.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely, it's my pleasure. Why don't we start by you telling us just a little bit about yourself?
Okay, I'm a 51-year-old mother of two boys and grandmother of three. I divide my time between my work, which is my art and my online class business, and my grandchildren. So we live in Seattle, Washington. We've lived here 5 years. Before that, we were in a small town in Colorado. That's where I sort of developed my style, I guess, as an artist. I had a lot more time than money, so that it was good and bad. And then before that, I was in Illinois, and then I grew up in Southern California.
Oh, okay. So you're quite the U.S. connoisseur. You've hit almost every corner of America.
Almost.
Well, great. How long have you been creating art?
Well, I was the kid that liked to draw, but when I was in high school, I had a bad experience with a teacher, which kind of cut me out of it for the next 15 years. So I didn't really get back into it until I was almost 30. By that time, I had gone through a series of jobs that weren't quite the right fit. I tried to work in a law office. That was just not the right fit for me. And then I tried to work as an editor and a writer, marketing copywriter for a newspaper. And again, not the best fit. Actually, there were some good things about it. But anyway, I ended up in graphic design, and my boss at that time recommended I take a life drawing class. So I was 29, and so that would be 22 years ago. So
Wow.
yeah, so I started life drawing, and I took some painting classes, printmaking, and then I kind of just went from there.
How would you describe your style?
Yeah, I was thinking about that, and I really should have like that 10-word answer for that question because I never quite, I always get asked that, and I don't know what to say. I would say that it's cute and whimsical, but they're depressed. The characters are depressed. I just did a little series of Christmas card things, and my husband said, I mean, he was just making fun of me that they all looked so sad, all these little animals. So anyway, I like to draw. I'm putting my headphone back in, sorry. I like to draw faces, people, and animals. Recently, more animals than faces, although I switch back and forth. And yeah, they all seem to have that. It's almost like you're capturing them not in the moment where we're getting our photo taken, where we're all smiley, but yeah, but when they're just sitting there reading a book and thinking about, somebody cutting them off in the freeway or something like that. So.
Well, then again, Eeyore is one of the most beloved characters, and he is rather depressed. So
that's
you're
right.
definitely onto something there.
Yeah, so I don't know why. I just can't. In fact, my husband said, why don't, well, he was kind of teasing me because he knows people have asked that before, but he said, why don't you just put some sparkle in their eye, make them smile? And I'm like, I don't even know how.
Because that's been what you've done for so long, right? It's hard to kind of change the perspective you're looking at them at.
I guess I would say that I'm not a good illustrator in the sense that I can't, like I've tried to be an illustrator, like illustrating other people's stories, and there's something in me that just rebels against, making a piece of art that isn't true to who I am, I guess. I don't know. And not that illustrators are like that at all. It's all I mean is I do get a lot of feedback that I should make things happier in the illustration field, and it's just very difficult for me to do it.
What feels right to you, and that's really
Yeah.
what's important, I think. So, what do you prefer to work on as far as your surface? Do you prefer canvas or art journals or just watercolor paper?
Yes, I guess my go-to paper is a hot press watercolor paper. I don't often work in the art journal format with the book. I do like to make artist books, but they're usually smaller and kind of, start to finish one theme. So all my sort of art journaling kind of things, I do have a sketchbook, and that's just ballpoint pen, and writing, lots of writing and lots of little rough sketches. And then I would say my sort of artistic part are just little scraps of watercolor paper mostly. And then when I try to paint larger, I usually paint on wood.
Okay.
I don't like canvas. I've painted a few things on canvas, and once I get going, I'm fine. But it's like I guess I don't like the give of it.
Yeah.
So we all have to find our media that is most comfortable for us, and that's when we make our best work, is when we're enjoying what we're working with. So
Absolutely. So about the wood, I've seen a lot of that lately where people are starting to work on reclaimed wood or scrap wood. Do you prep the surface before you work on it, or do you just go at it on the raw wood?
I go at it on the raw wood. One of my techniques is just to throw watercolor on there and then put gesso over on top while it's still wet, and so that the watercolor mixes in with the gesso and sort of tints it. And then and I don't know how archival this is or how long it'll last, but that's what I do. I don't worry too much about those things. So.
I know that I, for one, and I'm sure our community would love to see pictures of that. So,
oh, sure.
Your projects on wood, that would be great.
Yeah.
What advice would you give to someone who is just starting out in art, or maybe has an interest in it and wants to start delving into playing creatively, but just doesn't know where to begin?
Well, I think my first thing would be, don't be afraid to draw. Your drawings are, no matter what skill level you think you are, they're actually very wonderful. And those of you who are afraid to draw, and I just met so many people that are, so I just want to address it right away. Please don't be. Your sort of lack of experience or whatever are what make your drawings so charming and so whimsical. And I just love children's art and outsider art, which is kind of a folk art.
Yes.
And they're all very raw and very imperfect, and I think it shows the emotion of the characters or the scene that they're drawing so much better. And anybody who isn't like totally skilled in drawing has a leg up on those who are really accomplished, because it's hard to get back to that rawness. So enjoy it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's like as adults, we forget how to play.
Yeah.
And I guess if after you've been a trained artist for so many years, you forget to allow yourself to play in that way. So.
And that would be my second thing, is really just aim to have fun with it. It's not, I mean, there's so many things in life to worry about, like, paying the insurance bill on time and a sick grandchild and all things, but drawing and painting really isn't one of them. I mean, it's not that I'm very competitive, actually, once I get on the paper, and I want to make it as best as I can, and so it's serious, but it's also fun. And I think that's the thing with kids when they play. They're like deadly serious, but they're also having fun, and that's sort of the balance that I go for. But you have to really remind yourself that it's supposed to be fun, and if it's not, I put it aside. I don't force it. If I'm not feeling up to it, if I'm depressed or too stressed, or it's not a magic bullet to make you happier. In some ways, everything has to sort of coexist together, but sometimes it's a matter of just sitting down and then letting the fun happen, and you kind of have to force yourself to do that. But if it's too hard or too difficult, then take a break.
Right, right. That it's having the opposite effect of what it should, and that's to
Right.
bring you joy.
Right.
So, do you draw with your grandchildren?
A little bit. They're 3 and under, so yeah, it's funny. Uh, I have a wonderful little video of Liam, the 3-year-old, when he was 1.5, and he would make a mark and he'd say yes, and then he'd make another mark and he'd say yes, and but he's not quite as he's more interested in stories and reading than the drawing. The younger one, Ethan, seems to be a little bit more tactile in that way. It's funny, we all have our different personalities. Sure. But usually, anyway, long answer to a short question. Not yet. Not yet very much. I do let him scribble in my journals and everything, but nothing.
And those are probably the most precious pages to you.
They are. I can't touch them. You know, there's a little scribble and then move on to the, you know, it's so cute. They just scribble and then they move on to the next page. They have no feeling that they need to finish anything. No. It's a, and
that's
you learn a lot.
Great lesson.
Yeah.
It is. I have my first grandchild coming in July. So
congratulations.
Thank you. And I'm already excited and thinking of all the wonderful things we can do together and play and get messy. And I keep being told I need to rein it in a little bit. Baby's not even here yet. We have a long time for that. But oh, that's awesome. What inspires you to create?
I think that it's sort of an inner thing. I mean, it's both an outer and an inner. There's an inner drive to create. So I think that I'm just happier once I've made something, and it's not a thing that's really easy to explain why it's good, but it just is true for me. I recently took a workshop. I don't know if you can see. Yeah, there's some pom-poms in the back.
Yes.
And I took this workshop where we just wrapped yarn all day, you know, all evening, and I just drove home ridiculously happy. I was just so happy, and the pom-poms kind of reminded me of when I was a little girl, I think, and the fact that it was, I don't know, it was just fun for me, and I was so happy, and I'm trying to, you know, analyze why it is that, you know, spending time making stuff makes me happy, but it does, and a happier me means a happier everyone else around me, right?
Absolutely.
So that inspires me.
If Mama ain't happy, nobody's happy.
Right. I also am inspired by kind of random things like sidewalk cracks or leaves that look like birds, or lately I have a coffee pot that drips when I pour, and I'm just too impatient and I pour it too fast so it drips, and now they're the most wonderful little animals. So these kind of things inspire me. I'm actually an indoor person. I like to be cozy in my house, but I would say that I get the most inspiration in terms of, you know, drawing my imaginary creatures and things from my walks in the city. And we live downtown Seattle, so we have an unusual living situation right now. So.
Oh, that's great. You know, I'm thinking back on just what we've talked about so far, and there's so many lessons in there with the kids, and then what you just said about the animals in the coffee drips.
Yeah.
You know, you can be inspired by anything, and you can find beauty in anything, and I think that's another really important lesson for not just artists, but everybody.
Yes, and there's a little bit of I mean, it might be a weakness on my part as an artist, but there's, in the sense that, I mean, I can draw pretty well. Like if I go to a figure drawing class and I really concentrate, I can get a realistic looking figure. But I don't often choose to draw that way, and I think it might have to do with, I don't know, the pressure of the situation of having to get something exactly right. And so by creating animals and even faces out of these random shapes, it takes a lot of the pressure off for me. It just, right out of the box, it's just fun. You know, right out of the box, I've created a situation for myself that is almost fail-proof. And this is, for whatever reason, it has worked for me, and also, you know, people that I've taught is when you right off the bat make it so that it can't be perfect, it takes a lot of the pressure off. So that's why I have people drawing with their wrong hands and sometimes with their eyes closed, and all that leading into, I mean, I love to draw when I'm drawing. Realistically, I love it, and I think it all works together, but I do a lot of these other exercises to just get me moving, because I always have that inertia getting started.
Right, the first step's always the hardest. I have to say, I was part of Lifebook 2014, so I did your lesson, and that was probably the most difficult lesson week for me, because I hadn't thought in those terms, and I hadn't let myself go, and to try to draw with my eyes closed and with my non-dominant hand, and everyone in my house got quite quite a laugh looking at what I'd created and the little bits of the collage making into different animals. I had a blast with it, and it really changed my mindset on creating, because it didn't have to be something perfect that I wanted to put all over the internet and show everyone.
Right.
It was really just more for me to create.
Yeah.
I absolutely loved it, and I think, although I had always known of you, that was really when I truly became a fan, because it taught me how to look at creating in a completely different way. So.
Oh, I'm so happy to hear that. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I just I just think that I love collage myself, but I also want to put my own hand in, and I found that a lot of the students feel that urge, but they're so afraid, and it's really can be so exciting, you know, to open that door. You know?
Absolutely, absolutely. Do you create every day, or do you go in spurts?
I go in spurts. I would say, you know, I kind of have a full-time job on the computer. I spend most of my days answering emails and logging people in, and or having to be on videotape, which is really not my favorite thing at all. I would say I do create something every day, even if lately I've been writing in my sketchbook, which is really more like a notebook, and I have I carved this space into 4 areas, and one of them is a little drawing box, and they're terrible drawings. I mean, I'll share one with you for your thing, but as I've looked back over them, it's who I was at the moment, you know, and how I drew at the moment. I remember my son Wes. I was just starting being a drawing teacher, and for whatever reason I was trying to draw a bicycle, and it just wasn't coming. You know, it's kind of like it's just, you know, if you're tired, I mean, drawing isn't a science. Everything kind of has to work together. You can't be so tired, or, you know, and so it was really a bad drawing, and my son goes, "You're really a bad drawer." And I'm like, "I know," and I just wrote a book on drawing, you know. It's like kind of you know, well, kids are so wonderful and keeping, but my point is, if you can hold your results as loosely as possible, you'll be happier, because, and that's true in all of life too, because you're just not on every day and every moment of every day, and some days it's just harder than others, and some days, like when I used to do life drawing regularly, I'd go some nights and I just couldn't do anything, and sometimes I'd push myself to stick through it for another hour, and then I would leave, because it's just like, it is not happening today. You know, I tried, I gave it my best shot, and now I'm going to give up. You know.
Well, I think it comes just as much from here and in the heart that it does from the brain and the hand coordinating
together.
You
That's
really
right.
feel it.
Yeah, that's
You
right.
really do. Do you consider art or drawing almost a therapy or a balm to the soul? Or do you think you always need to be in that space in order to create?
Oh no, I think it can, like anything in life, it's not really black and white. It probably moves and shifts for person to person and also day to day within the same person. I do know that if I have a definite history of depression, I've like very bad. It's completely managed now for the most, I mean, completely, mostly managed. So I'm not living this, horrible existence that I used to, but it if I'm in that place, I can't pull it out of me to create. If so for that in that situation, somebody's saying, well, if you just draw, you'll be happier. That doesn't work for me at all. But I do think it acts as kind of almost like a preventative medicine for me. I mean, I think maybe creating maybe can help keep my depression at bay. I think that sometimes it can pull me out of a funk. Not, but mostly I need to be in a certain happy place in order to pick up the pen or pencil.
I thank you for sharing that. I too have a history of depression, and currently well medicated.
Yeah.
So I'm in a good place, but I've been told that you just need to go out and create, and you'll feel better. And since that's what you love to do, but sometimes it's just too dark to be able to bring that out onto a medium. So I appreciate your sharing that.
Yeah, people don't understand that if you're at the point where you're that far down, it's really a sad thing. But my husband would say, go for a walk, go for a run, and but I can't. But
No.
I have been exercising regularly more for the first time in years, and I do think that in the same way that creativity can be sort of a preventative medicine, I do think exercise can be preventative if you hit it early before it sets in.
Right. Well, again, thanks for sharing that. I do think that's a common thread among creative people. You hear that a lot.
Yeah.
Something about the way our brains are wired and in the need to create also causes some of those little darker spots.
Mm-hmm.
On another note, are there certain colors that you tend toward when you're creating that you tend to grab more often than others?
I kind of like pale colors, grays and pastels, but not. Yeah, I always tend to I don't like royal blue or bright red unless it's just a little touch of it in a neutral field, and I always think of that preference as like a food preference. I don't like olives. You like olives.
Right.
All bright colors don't. Sometimes I love it, but for the most part, I don't gravitate. I'm always I have these. This I don't know if you can see, but it's like a pale green stuff, and then I have this peach colored. Everything's peach or white or kind of neutral colors. So,
right.
yeah, I use a lot of black watercolor to sort of gray down colors and things.
I think it's interesting to see what colors each person gravitates toward. For some reason, teal and red are two that I use constantly, and it doesn't matter whether it's a blog page or whether it's an art journal page or a canvas, that I tend to reach for those colors.
Yeah.
What would you say are your go-to mediums or your go-to techniques?
Gosh, I use everything. I dabble in everything, but I would say that the things I use the most would be watercolor, and then also pencil to add shading, and I use. It just depends on the mood I'm in. I have to be in a certain mood to get my hands messy, but when I use charcoal, I love, love, love charcoal, but it's kind of one of those things that comes out very rarely. But yeah, I guess watercolor, a mix of markers and colored pencils sometimes in there. I don't know. Lately, I've been trying. I haven't been a really huge acrylic paint fan, but I've been trying. And I have these Holbein acrylic gouache paintings that have a matte finish that I really like. So I've been playing around with those. But I do everything.
Well, it keeps it fresh, I guess, too.
Yeah.
What are some artists that you admire the most?
Well, I admire all artists because, I mean, in the sense that we're all putting ourselves out there, and it's kind of scary to do that. So I really appreciate everybody. The artists that, well, I love contemporary illustration, things that illustration, children's book, not traditional children's book illustration, but some of the more edgier children's book illustration. My favorite sort of era or time of artists that inspired me are Picasso and Modigliani and Paul Klee and Alexander Calder and Moreau, that time. Let's see, outsider artists I mentioned earlier, it's kind of a darker side of folk art.
Sure.
A lot of the art is very childlike. A lot of it's made from mentally ill or mentally challenged people who might have some obsessive compulsive tendencies and things. So I love that. Children's art. I like, yeah, those are the main ones. Oh, and Iranian art, children's book illustration. There's some wonderful illustrators from Iran, and they have a very deep and strong history of children's book illustration there, and I'm really inspired by that too. So.
That's something I did not know. I'm going to have to check that out. Of the books that you've written, which is near and dearest to your heart?
The animals one. I have Drawing Lab, the one that you showed or have at the beginning, is the bestseller, and I do like that book a lot. Oh, here comes my husband. Sorry, go away. I'm being taped. I like that one a lot, and I'm really proud of a lot about that one. But then the animals one, which is the one that came after that, is a little more focused on what I had been doing at that time, imaginary animals, and so I'm really happy with that one. Yeah.
Okay. If I know you have a number of online courses on your site. If someone were to ask you, I only have money to take one right now, which one do I have to take?
Well, it depends on if they like to draw animals, then there's a class called Imaginary Creatures, which is super fun, I think. If they love mixed media, like, like texture and everything, Junk Mail Artist Book is a fun one. And if they want to draw faces, I have a faces class. Those are kind of like my three, I don't know, bestseller, whatever. I have been doing year-long classes, and this last year, the fairy tale class, we illustrated 8+ fairy tales, and we concentrated on illustration. So children's book illustration, kind of, I wanted to do that, so it was kind of my way to get a step closer, to really try to figure it out. And so that one is good for that. I don't know. You have to, you just have to go and you have to let your gut tell you which one seems the most fun for you. And yeah, the Draw Workshop, which is a 21-day draw, it's kind of like Drawing Lab, but in an online format. I love that workshop, but I think people are a little nervous about it, that we start out drawing with your eyes closed and you end up drawing the figure. So it's kind of in 3 weeks, and hopefully, I mean, it seems daunting what you're doing by the end, but of course you've already been drawing 10 to 20 minutes every single day, and I try to keep it. I started out teaching kids, and I needed to keep it fun for them, and so when I started teaching adults, I basically just did the very same thing, and so I tried to do that. So hang on just a minute.
Sure.
Can you turn that off? Sorry, hang on.
No
Can you turn
problem.
the dishwasher off? Oh, okay. Sorry.
That's okay. I can't hear it anyway.
Okay,
And I'm
okay.
just amazed my dogs haven't started to bark while we're talking because
Okay.
they tend to do that when they forget there's a cattle farm across the street.
Um, I have a cat that always starts meowing anytime a tape recorder or something goes on.
I know.
So,
Now, one of the products or classes that I think you're most known for is the art of silliness. And can you talk a little bit about what that is and what that means? And
yes. Yes, The Art of Silliness. Well, that's the third book, and it's one of those books where you draw right in. It's basically my draw class or my art lab, or drawing lab, kind of distilled into worksheet format. So it's sort of tapping into that third grade you that just loved to fill out worksheets. Um, what a lot of drawing exercises, I'll have you doing a haiku poem about your medicine cabinet and making up words and definitions, but mostly drawing and creating. So it's a drawing course, but it's definitely meant to tap into that child part of you.
oh, that sounds great.
Yeah.
That sounds great. So what's next for you? Do you have anything new that will be coming out in 2015?
Well, I'm co-teaching a class with Lynn Whipple called Year of the Spark, so that's exciting. Lynn is wonderful. She's a wonderful mixed media artist, been around for years, and I'm really looking forward to working with her. At the beginning of February, I'm going to New York to a children's illustrators conference, and it's just a 3-day workshop, but that's scary because I'm going to be showing my portfolio, so I'm kind of hoping that 2015 I can flesh out another book idea that I've been kicking around, but these things don't. It's kind of like a lot of incubation time, and then once you can get it sold, then you're deadline driven and you get it done. But during this incubation time, it can go on for a very long time. So I'm thinking 2015 might be my year to begin that process
Okay.
again.
Well, we'll definitely share some links to your site and some of your work on the site so our community can find out more about you and follow you online.
Thank you.
And be sure to share the information for the class that you're co-teaching. I'm
Okay.
sure a lot of people would be interested in seeing that. So now we're going to kind of switch gears, and I'm going to ask you a few questions. I call it fun tidbits, and they're just little non-art related questions to get to know you a bit. Are you ready?
Sure.
Okay. What is your favorite snack food?
Oh boy, probably muffins.
Oh, yum. Good choice. Your favorite musical artist?
It's funny, I love music, but I'm not really artist specific. I am. I have a band that I love called Over the Rhine. They're out of Ohio, and it's a female vocalist, and I love them. Yeah. So,
Awesome.
but I listen to everything.
Favorite non-art related book?
I really enjoy fiction, and the fiction that I tend to gravitate to usually has these sort of disturbed male protagonists. So Catcher in the Rye would be a good example of that. A Month of Sundays by John Updike. It's kind of strange, but anyway. So yeah, I like fiction. I like these disturbed male protagonists. So.
Awesome. Awesome. TV show you can't miss?
Well, since Netflix came along, I've been I mentioned that I exercise now, and the only way I can do that is by watching a television show while I'm on the bicycle. And so most recently it's been The Blacklist. I like Grey's Anatomy. I've watched How I Met Your Mother. I don't know. I'm always looking for a new show, so suggestions.
Well, Netflix did me in when I found out about Breaking Bad after it had already ended, and we had to binge watch it for months in order to,
Actually, I loved Breaking Bad too. Yep.
you know. Um, Coffee or tea?
Coffee.
Ah,
Tea.
I know, me too. I know. And lastly, what's one odd thing that we probably don't know about you?
I, I, s- I spent a year in Sweden when I was 23. Yeah.
Oh, well, that's neat. Very neat.
Yeah.
Well, I have to tell you, I so much enjoyed talking with you and getting to know you and hearing about your perspective on things. And I know our community is just going to be just as excited. Um, be sure to send me those links so that we can
Okay.
let everybody know where to find out more about your upcoming collaboration and see more of your work. So I want to thank you for being here with us today
Thank you.
and wish you a great holiday season.
Thank you. You too.
Thank you.
Bye bye.